So let's have a bit of a recap on what we've learnt about method overloading and discuss the benefits of using method overloading. So confirming again as a recap that method overloading is a feature that allows us to have more than one method with the same name so long as we use different arguments or parameters. So it's the ability to create multiple methods of the same name with different implementations. Calls to an overloaded method will run a specific implementation or version, if you will, of that method. Now in the example from the previous video, we had the calculate score method that had 0, 1 and 2 parameters. As an example, let's say that you have to create a method which can do the sum of 2 numbers, the sum of 3 numbers and the sum of 4 numbers. Now each method would have parameters passed to it with the numbers to sum. So ending up with the following methods in this example is not good practice and actually is not method overloading. So you'd never want to write code like I'm showing you below because it's considered bad practice. And you can see in this scenario we've got 3 methods with different names to remember. So the main problem here with these methods is that you have to remember 3 method names that do the sum. Now imagine that you wanted to have a method that adds up to 20 numbers, you'd effectively end up having to write 20 different methods with 20 different names. Remembering 20 names would be quite hard. So to overcome this problem, we can use the same name for the method. So let's see an example of that. So a solution to that problem with method overloading would still end up with 3 methods, but note that they're now all sharing the same method name. Much easier to remember. So we've got a method that sums, overloaded twice, with 2, 3 or 4 parameters. So that's an example of how the method should be written. In other words, we can use the method overloading feature and write methods with the same name. So that way, we just need to remember one name of the method, which in this case is sum. Alright, so let's now see both examples at once. So at the top there, we've got the bad practice, and that's with the 3 different method names. And again, the reason we're not doing that is firstly, it's not method overloading, but secondly, it's hard to remember method names that are different there. In the example below, we've got 3 methods with the same name. We just have to remember one method name and it gives us more flexibility. You can see how method overloading can be very helpful in scenarios like this. And keep in mind that method overloading is a very common thing. It's used everywhere and in many other languages as well. So as an example, the println method, which of course is part of Java, that's a great example of method overloading. There's actually 10 methods with the same name, println, in Java. And that's allowing us to print an integer, print a double, print a string, and so on. So you can see that's a good example of method overloading. So as a final recap on method overloading, it improves code readability and reusability. It's easier to remember one method name instead of remembering multiple names. It achieves consistency in naming. So one name for methods that are commonly used, and it's an example, println, from the Java language itself. And finally, overloaded methods give programmers the flexibility to call a similar method with different types of data based on the arguments or parameters that you define. So that's the method overloading recap. Let's now move on to the next video.